Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dan from Ukraine Insider, and today we're going to talk about a very important issue that we see in the good Russians. So, first of all, in case you don't know, the breakdown currently of the Russians who support the terrorist activities and the war crimes that their country is doing is 80%, which is huge. So 80% support it, which is pretty crazy. I was expecting a lot lower support, and 20% oppose it. So if we called those 20% the good Russians, then that's what we're talking about here. And well, the bad Russians also don't understand this, but to them there's no point in even talking to. The good Russians, who are generally more well-traveled, who are more educated, who should understand this but seem to not understand it, this video is for you guys and for people who have friends like that to hopefully share this information with them. So the good Russians do not understand that fundamentally Ukraine is not Russia. And that seems very simple, but if you dive into some of the details, they may tell you that they know it's not Russia. But if you dive into some of the details, they certainly have ideas that suggest that somehow the territory of Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, the culture of Ukraine, the language of Ukraine, somehow it either belongs to Russia, or at the very least it's somehow uniquely related or very closely related, and this is something that they should have a say about. So guys, this is what the war is about. The war is about two civilizations at war. One is trying to essentially eliminate the other one. One is a system of a dictatorship where there's aggression coming from their side, and the other one is fighting for its survival and fighting for democracy. So Ukraine is on the side of fighting for its survival, and it's fighting not just Vladimir Putin, but it's fighting all these supporters of him, which is 80% of the country. Huge. So it's fighting this entire system that fundamentally doesn't understand that this does not belong to them. Because if they did, why would they go into Ukraine, right? Ukraine for them is part of Russia, and that's why they choose to wage this war. And the good Russians must understand that the Ukrainian language, nothing to do with Russian. The Ukrainian culture, nothing to do with Russian. The Ukrainian people, nothing to do with Russian people. And the only thing that's tying these people together is that, yes, during some periods in history, they were under one empire or another empire together, and somehow this creates a special relationship. Guys, the only reason why we have, for example, people in Ukraine that speak Russia or any sort of cultural connection whatsoever is because it was forced upon Ukrainians. It was always Russian aggression that was taking over Ukraine, that Ukrainians were defending themselves against, that countless Ukrainians have died over the years defending this. Basically their right to exist, their right to express their own language, their own culture, and Russian language and culture was always pushed on these people. And today we see the remnants of that. Obviously, in Eastern Ukraine, the first language that people speak tends to be Russian, even if they understand both. And so we still see the remnants of that, and that is not an indication that somehow these are Russian people. I mean, it's the same way that if you look at Georgians speaking Russian, at least I think Russians will accept that Georgians are not Russians, even though if they want to control their territory also, but at least they don't have this lack of understanding. But for Ukrainians and Belarusians, mostly because it's also Slavic people and because the languages tend to be pretty similar, Russians somehow think that these are Russian people. I'm going to tell a quick story. So I used to travel a lot, and I would meet different people while traveling, and oftentimes these were Russian people. And this was before I even knew any of the politics about Ukraine. And you know, I spoke Ukrainian, never learned Russian, and whenever I would meet these people, it would always come up like, oh, like we should try to speak, like you speak Ukrainian, I speak Russian, and they were always the ones who were kind of initiating this idea because they were sure that Ukrainian and Russian are the same language. And every time this happened, we would just get confused, and then we would ultimately default to English because we could not have a conversation. Me not knowing Russian, this person not knowing Ukrainian. And there was even one time where there was a Russian guy who was, again, one of these good Russians who was very friendly towards Ukrainians. And when I spoke Ukrainian to him, he got angry. he got angry and he started yelling at me, and he's like, "That's not Ukrainian. I know Ukrainian. I can understand it. That's not Ukrainian." So yeah, these people exist, and they just don't understand the simple thing, which would make their lives a lot easier. And as far as the language issue goes, I mean, honestly, it's a pretty stupid point to try to say that two groups of people are the same, that their culture is the same, that the people are fundamentally the same, because we have a bunch of examples in Europe, especially, where that, you know, the case is that languages are very similar, yet Russians do not claim that Spanish and Italians are the same people, that Spanish and Italians have the same culture. So for these people, they can accept it, and the similarity of the languages between Spanish and Italian is pretty much at the level of Ukrainian and Russian, if not even closer together, because in some cases, Spanish and Italian is mutually intelligible. In the case of Ukrainian and Russian, it almost virtually isn't. So yeah, guys, I mean, that's basically the main point here. If you have any thoughts or ideas around this topic, please leave it in the comments. We can continue the discussion, but we need the good Russians to understand this, because ultimately we are going to get rid of Putin, and we need thought leaders and people who are able to lead Russia in a good direction, where they're not isolated from the whole world, where they can move forward with the rest of society, instead of living off in a closed country like North Korea, where, you know, it's basically like nothing going on there, and people are slaves, and they're unable to leave, and it's miserable. So, you know, that's one choice. The other choice is to live with the civilized world, to do business together, to develop ideas together, and to progress society forward. So hopefully we can get this point around. And just in general, to all my viewers, guys, please keep supporting Ukraine. Keep talking about what's happening there. Donate in any way you can. If you can donate money, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. If you can't, at least talk about it. Encourage others. Don't be silent. It's very important, not just for Ukraine to win the war for the sake of Ukraine, but for the security in all of Europe and ultimately the United States. And just in general, like, we cannot allow these kind of dictators to use force to pressure all their neighbors to do what they want. So thank you guys. Keep watching the channel, and please like and comment on the video if you can.